Hello, welcome to your weekly astrological transit forecast. And today I want to start with looking at the aspect lines in the center just for a minute. I just want you to just see a few patterns. Don't focus too much on it. I'm going to unpack a lot of this, but we relatively have a quiet week as far as aspects. We're coming into full moon next Monday, but I'll get into all that in just a second. But I just want you to see a few things. Um, Look here at the moon. The moon starting yesterday, when the moon went into Virgo, we could see kind of like what sticks out in my mind is that it's making uh, quincunxes over to Venus and over to Pluto. So those are kind of uncomfortable. It's that maybe we kind of start this week with, well, a sense of duty, sense of you should all over yourself. We should be doing this. Um, it's just kind of an interesting mix, but there's also a little bit of tension with Saturn putting in these squares and a half squares, and there's half squares. So we can see these red lines all creating a bunch of like antagonistic, maybe a lot of problems, a lot of things coming up all of a sudden, uncomfortableness. But within all that, there's like a really nice trine, sextile, a nice harmonious relationship conversation going between Pluto and Venus, which almost just kind of quells all that other stuff. It's like there's some important things going on in the foreground, hopefully kind of overshadowing all the shit chatter, all of this other stuff. And I just want to show you kind of how things are going to build. So then coming into today, we have a somewhat of a lessening, but this Venus uh, sextile Pluto, this nice Venus Pluto conversation. Venus, what you want. She's bold now in Aries, not afraid to speak her mind, speak her truth, not spouting off, being snarky or sarcastic or glib, or unfeeling. It's just coming across with, hey, this is what's going on. This is what you bring up with me. It's not your fault, but this is what I experience. And, matter of fact, no big deal or not overly dramatized. And that's how it is. Bringing up the depths of Pluto, what bothers you, what you need to transform in a altruistic, kind of slightly removed, unemotional kind of Spock way. So that's very, very powerful. And then as we go into the week, we have this a couple cool things starting to form. We have some opposition coming in with Saturn. I mean, it has been with over, the moon and the nodes. You can see that a little bit here, but more than that, let's see. Let me get past this. Okay, coming into Saturday, what's the one I wanted to show you? Okay, couple things. We can see, let's start down here because it's the darkest. It's moving in there. The moon is making an interesting as we come into Saturday. Pluto, I'm looking down here at the bottom. Pluto is making it's in what called like the bends, sort of. It's in the center of um, it's making a square over to Mercury. Mercury's moving and it's gonna, 0 degrees as it moves on to 3, it'll be more exact, right? Making a square here. So the mind in depths, maybe it gets, but Mercury's slowing down a little bit of stuff in Taurus, but it can say things more deliberately. It can say things again. I think you can lend this energy to Venus to speak your mind, but speak it with conviction, with power, with love, deliberately. That's what I think is Mercury moves into Taurus, that's will slow that down. And then, as the moon comes over here, it triggers things. So as it's making an aspect going, right before the full moon coming into Scorpio, it's going to be focused. So this is perfect for maybe zeroing in on a problem, for saying something, speaking from your heart, because it's going to be square over to Pluto. And then the moon is going to be uncomfortable over to Neptune. So it's going to clear up a lot of stuff. It's going to go, that's not how I feel, or I was lied to, or whatever it is there so, but the truth is going to come out because here you've got like the grace of God, Venus in a nice conversation with Pluto. It's like hey, I can't help. This is how I feel. This is real. Let's work on it. Let's move past this drama and let's work for solutions. Now it gets even more powerful. We can see this kind of a rectangle starting. Oh, I forgot one thing. The next one. Oh, go back. Um, the same thing is happening over to another powerful outer planet, Jupiter. Jupiter is in the bends also with the nodes of the moon, and it's going to get closer. See, it's 23, and the mutable signs, and we have it getting closer to 24. So it is like the Jupiterian, where do I expand? And then here's like the squirrel, of information and lots of stuff. And let's go here, let's go there, Gemini, all this stuff. And it's almost overwhelming with so many choices, kind of like the Seven of Cups, so many choices. But what the nodes are going to do is it's going to help, especially with Virgo and then Pisces. The Pisces will be the what we're going toward, the North Node, the dream, manifesting this, and the Virgo is going to help, pare away all the fat, trim the fat, get to the details, zero in on it, and it's going to help clear up the confusion, that this Jupiter is in right here. So as we get closer to this full moon, we can see this is now, some of these aspects are starting to change a little bit. But we're starting to see this it's going to be like a mystic rectangle, and I'm just going to get right there. There it is. So this is very nice. We've got the sun now involved in the nodes. It's making a trine on one side over to the south node. So from your past, using that discrimination of paring away unessentials and then going toward the future, sextiling over to the North Node and Saturn over there, putting that structure in where you need to go. Saturn is maybe going to, at this point with this figuration, going to help a little bit of the guidelines, a little bit of the boundaries to bring in where you want to go, where we all want to go, because now we're clearing things up out of the fog, but it's still dawn. It's still not real bright out yet, so we still have to have other ways of seeing the landing. And I think this is part of it. And then Saturn and the node, the North Node over here to the moon. The moon's going to act as a trigger here when it pulls in. So, around that certain time, um, into Monday afternoon, at least this is East Coast, but you'll be feeling it all day, and then the moon will go in and make it trigger because then it will be sextile to the South Node and trine to the North Node. So we have this nice ease and flow within this unsettled Jupiter of like all these choices and decisions. See, because this is all tangled up with the moon nodes. So what do I need to do? What do I need to, explore? Well, the sun is holding the corner. That is now becoming solid and grounding, and maybe something out of the blue because it's getting real close to its conjunction with Uranus, which will happen in a few days, 4 days further. So something maybe you hadn't thought of, something out of the blue, something that's going to give you security, comfort, grounding, stability. That's where it will be on some level. And then Mercury over here is, going to join the pack. It's, getting closer, but we have all this Taurian energy of finding that. Mercury is going to help the communications of all this. So this is a magical time. I think coming into this full moon this next week is really interesting, really magical, even though, Pluto turned retrograde Sunday, but it's kind of like taking the brakes off the intensity. So to me, that happened, and then it goes into the conjunction there with Venus. So it was willing to listen, lend the depth to Venus being able to speak, us being able to speak for what we want. That's what that Venusian energy is, what we love, what we want, our talents and what we're moving toward. And that's moving toward that North Node. So where we all want to go. So that, I think it was important to look at that overlay because this is more important than all these little just daily things. But I'm going to just take you through the daily things because there's not a lot of them this week. So yeah, it was Sunday that we had Pluto go direct. I mean, I'm sorry, it stationed retrograde and then turned retrograde. All right, let me take these off here and just get that out of the way. Just to clear it up now. Okay. And then coming into, Monday, we have, that nice Venus sextile Pluto is what I talked about. And then we also, I don't have a lot of, I don't think I have it on here. No, I don't have Chiron on here. There's always so much, but the wounded healer, um, Mercury's is conjuncting the Chiron. So it's basically maybe the same thing. It's like being able to talk about your wounds, being able to express how you feel, so you'll find astrology says things the same thing in many ways. All right, moving, that's today. Whoop, did I get, there we go. That was today. That and then our moon is in Virgo, so it's going to go over the south node. So very good time to get rid of more crap you don't need, especially emotional crap, emotional baggage, and physical stuff that you just don't need. Maybe give service, give of yourself, give service, give time, give love, give things like that. Moon in Virgo need help. A lot of people just need help. Um, older people, people that, maybe are ill health, it's like, hey, do you need your lawn cut? Do you need this washed? Do you need this clean? Do you need these gutters, clean? Do you need this bush cut? Do you need to go to the store? Do you need me to go to the store for you? All kinds of gifts of service, um, to tasks to get things done. I think within the next couple days, Moon and Virgo going over the South Node. That would be very, very good. Um, there it is. On Wednesday, look, it's exact. And then it's going to make, we said that quincunx, or that finger of God, right, over to Mercury and Saturn in the North Node. So helping out, it's putting that on, like, how can I help instead of complain? Good question. All right, then Moon will be moving into Virgo. Not a lot going on, just pretty much just moon aspects. It'll be, doing its little conversations with, all the other planets as it goes around. Um, Libra, the moon is a bit more balancing back to, saying how you feel, listening to others, helping out, balancing things, balancing yourself, balancing your own inner dilemmas and voice, listening to both parts of the argument within the self. Saturday, another kind of chill day. We do have Mercury moving into Taurus. So the mind, I think, will be more slowed, more deliberate, more concentrated. It won't be so flitting around. I think it will help put some order in, stabilize some of that energy with Jupiter and what it's kind of going through. The like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. I can experience it myself. I get a little bit of extra time. It's like, oh, I have all these courses. I got this one from Astrology Hub, and I got this one from Dusty's course, and I got this one from, Judith. I got this one from, Judith Hill, blah, 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 blah. And then I got this book I want to read. I want to get into this. And it's like, okay, just start on one thing, on just one of them, and stay focused. You can get to them all. So, but you get that kind of squirrely, um, uh, information, analysis paralysis, or information overload, but not even get traction yet. So it's just like, just make a decision. And then if you find you're bored or don't like it, then change, but just jump on any of them. It really doesn't matter. Okay, coming into Sunday, we've moved here. You can see the moon now has moved, late Saturday. It's moved into Scorpio, so things are going to be more intense now. Moon doesn't really love to be in Scorpio. It's intense, but I think it can be game here. This is this full moon. We're bringing things to fruition. This is like, this week. We're in that action cycle. We're into analyzing, active building, refining, rationalizing, getting things in order for our full moon, our, zeroing in on it, focusing. It's bringing some focus to that crazy Jupiter in Gemini that has been there all year, kind of just being entertained with all these possibilities and maybe not focusing on what it should. So this full moon, I think, is going to start that change, because we're going to see Jupiter change signs soon. But we're getting into that. We can see we're getting real close to Saturn. It's going to change signs soon. Okay, Sunday we have, there's, if I did it by minute, we would see it's the opposition there. And Sun is going to get real close to Uranus during this full moon, so this can be some unexpected things. The moon itself is at where did I wrote it down? 22 degrees. So it'll be, let me just see if it's just a hair back. Okay, and East Coast time. Let's go back. 22. There we go. Okay. So like East Coast time, 1:44 p.m. We can see it's within 4 degrees, almost, 5 degrees from Uranus, still pretty close. So we can still, the moon, I mean, the sun's orb is pretty wide. So we could still have something interesting out of the blue. It always makes me a little nervous with earth shaking or ground breaking kind of things with this type of a moon in Taurus. Other than that, the focus, we got a fixed focus there, the fixed signs, and something needs to give on that level. What else do I have on this Sunday? Mercury squaring Pluto, more fixed sign energy there. We've got the fixed full moon, and then we've got fixed Mercury's Pluto. So this could be a little bit problematic, a little bit squares are always a little bit difficult, conflictive, but they could be dynamic. But to me, the fixed square is always more obstinate. The mutable square, lovely. It gets past it faster. The cardinal one could be a little flagrant, but the fixed one is a fixed one, and then here we could have the conflict of having mental solidity and then being comfortable within yourself, being or having trouble communicating your comforts, or maybe being too comfortable at the expense of others. Any kind of play like that, because we have the others, the transformation, the higher than mighty view. Could be some of it challenging the do as I say, not as I do kind of a thing. It's like, well, you don't do that. Um, you know. So anyway, that can be just a little bit of this, a tiny bit of a hangnail or a bit of reality with maybe how we communicate things, making sure that we communicate it solid with purpose, not just blah, blah, just for the sake of having some drama. So know that this is it could be a little tense because it's this fixity. So just our part in that is to be fixed when you need to be, when you need to be solid and stand the ground, but not obstinate being fixed just to be fixed, or just to, it's like, well, because I said so. That's not really good enough reason anymore, not usually. Um, Other than that, that's pretty much our week. And, again, we're coming into, we could see that some more fixed sign problems we could see ahead now with, Mercury. Mercury was just going to be tangling a little bit with Pluto, and then it's going to get, as it gets on into degree, you'll see it tangle over here with Mars. So, Mercury's just in a little bit of being a little troublemaker here. So be careful about one, either being too stupid on something, denying it, or being too obstinate about something. It's like ignorance is not a excuse. And then also being able to say you're sorry. Okay, that, and then we have the sun conjuncting Uranus that's coming in. We just talked about that. Could be some sudden insights, sudden identity, something about your identity, yourself lit up or found, or something on that level. And then Saturn moving into Aries. We can see that's, it's 28:58. And if I just do the day, we can see it's, then, by next week, it's at 29 degrees. So it's going to be really close to joining or getting close to moving into Aries. And it won't join up totally with Neptune yet, but it'll get close. We'll get a taste of this. So very interesting things. All right, that is our week ahead. And it's all for now. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.